Welcome back to Life is Strange 2. So because Daniel cannot follow a simple order, let's get him back from Chris's house.
But Pedro, he's a kid. Of course he doesn't.
Yeah. I'm gonna address that in a moment. For now, I'll let Jova finish first.
Maybe if Daniel knew that the dad was being abusive and wanted to help Chris, like, I can understand, him being a kid, he idealistically wants to at least give the kid some company.
Daniel, what's going on here?
Daniel, we fucking told you to not use your powers unless it's necessary, absolutely.
Let me tell him. Sean,
Jesus
I know
fucking
it sounds
Christ.
crazy, but I have a superpower.
Yeah, great. And now he's given Chris false delusions. Thanks, Daniel.
Objects.
Admittedly, I'm guessing Chris fought that from when he,
Really?
didn't squat last time.
Well, that's pretty cool, Chris.
Basically, if you pick irresponsible, he'll start yelling at Daniel, but Chris will come into Daniel's defense. It doesn't really go much anywhere. Trust me, I wanted to pick irresponsible, but yeah, we can't really explain the problem to Daniel in front of Chris. So
okay, to be fair, while I have my own issues with Daniel, I could see him wanting to do this to cheer Chris up because Chris was clearly distressed. Again, it's not the smart thing to do, but this is one of the few times where I can buy that a kid Daniel's age would at least want to help cheer Chris up. So
that would be fine, Jova, if Daniel and Sean knew about what's been happening here with Chris and his dad, but they don't know yet. In fact, Sean is the only one who learns about it. Daniel never learns about it.
Oh, I know that they don't know yet, but I assume that, Daniel at least got the inkling that Chris may have been feeling a bit blue here and there based off of how he kind of, how his dad came frantic to him, apologizing.
The problem is that if that is supposed to be the case, Jova, it's not really conveyed to us. As far as we can tell, he's just doing it just because.
So it's business as usual with the game. Kind of have to fill the blanks, and I may have been doing the writer's job for them there.
Can we go get the Christmas tree now? We're both ready to fly.
Yes. The team has been waiting too long. Hey, you should come along too. There's nothing going on over here.
What's the worst that could happen?
Sure. Yeah, that's what someone who's perpetrating.
I love this one. So, okay, as we know, Sean should not go with this thing about going to the county fair because, it's dangerous. They're supposed to be hidden. And I picked between yes and they'll worry. I picked they'll worry because, Sean...
Let me guess. Regardless of what you pick, they go to the fair.
Of course they do, because the plot needs you to go there so you can introduce characters that are going to be in episode 3. It's one of those things where, again, typical case of bad writing. Whenever the writers want the plot to move in a specific direction, they will have the character break character because, again, typical amount of bad writing. Where instead of the characters shaping the plot, it's the plot shaping the characters.
I do think it's a lot more apparent in a choice-based game.
Yep.
Okay, team. I get it. You need to have the plot happen a certain way to get us to a certain point. Fair and fine. That being said, don't give us a choice where it literally will not change a dang thing. Unless you're a visual novel, no.
Because I was going to say, if you just want your other options to provide flavor text and have the one that actually, is relevant to the plot, just make a visual novel.
These are Captain Spirit's friends.
At least with something like Ace Attorney, where sometimes, picking a certain choice will get you to the same in-game route, but will give you different flavor text. Of course, the infamous "You two are lovers"
That's the thing.
bit, which pretty much 99% of Ace Attorney player base tends to pick on the first game, but I digress. It's cool flavor text, yes.
That's the thing, Shiroi. Even visual novels usually have better choice and consequences than this. And hell,
but they always bring you right back around on track to the plot that they want to tell.
Hell, fucking hentai games have this thing where, you know, like, you choose who you want to fuck as the protag. Like, especially if it's a harem hentai game. Like, it's like when fucking hentai games made in Japan have more choice and consequences than you have a problem.
Like, okay, the reason I'd be more lenient on this in the visual novels because for every time that visual novels have a choice that won't matter, they have several choices that heavily matter. So it's okay to occasionally have choices that effectively don't change the narrative but give you different flavor texts.
Yeah.
But here, again,
let me just explain this real quick. Yeah, basically, this minigame we just played was Chris helping us to identify who are the heroes and who are the villains. If you've played the Captain Spirit episode like I have, you might remember this. And I just got it all perfectly, and as a result, I get this souvenir, which is part of the collectibles that give you a trophy or achievement. Go on.
Neat. Again, this
also,
is
hey, look, the elephant in the room. Ha 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 ha.
Cute.
What the hell, Daniel? The first fucking rule. I know, right?
Okay, again.
Top Gear, the 2002 Top Gear run ended with that kind of joke because it's one of its main presenters was suspended and couldn't do it, so they had to put an elephant in the room while hastily putting together a finale episode.
That's fun.
Okay.
But to quote, sorry, go on.
To be fair to that first bit, what was Daniel supposed to do? Let the kid potentially break his neck from that?
Oh, sure. And we already addressed that with the choice that I made in the previous part. Yeah.
Also, I believe that the way the scene was played out, like, it seemed like it was an impulse. Like, he saw him fall and then just instinctively...
Oh, sure. Okay, I should explain that.
It's the Man of Steel argument.
Well, how about this? Remember, you have to understand that page in the diary shows up as a direct result to that action and doesn't necessarily reflect our choice of telling Daniel, yes, I concede, you did the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Because
that implies then that he wrote that in between his talk with Daniel, which, I'm sorry, wasn't that supposed to have been like right after he pulled Daniel inside after that bit?
I don't know what to tell you, Jova.
I mean, granted, yeah, that one's maybe a bit more of a nitpick, but you get what I mean, that the story in regards to its mechanics and stuff isn't the most well thought out.
Oh, it isn't. Like, I've been saying that since the beginning of this bloody game. But, yeah, basically. The basic idea is you get to ask Chris about things, and of course Chris says, basically, like I said, we actually get a chance to finally resolve Chris's story from the Captain Spirit free game.
Although amazingly, it sounds like it can get as bad as the kid literally dying.
It can, but don't worry, I'm not going to go for that because I like Chris, so...
Can he also show up in the end of the game?
He can in select pictures.
None of my business.
Like the actual character, like actual character showing up and speaking. Because basically the entire ending is silent. It's just a montage of things happening with no dialogue. So, as a result, the ending of this game is regardless of which game ending you get, it's kind of unsatisfying because you don't really get much, to be honest with you. But we'll get to that.
Yes, in a way that kind of reflects how the game's been up to this point. Not to say that nothing has happened, but the plot sure feels like a whole lot of nothing about 70% of the time.
Like I said, I get the feeling they really want to make this a slice of life, character-driven thing rather than a plot-driven thing. The problem is, if you're going to do that, like I said, the character writing has to be on point, and it isn't.
I'm not saying you can't have a more serious slice of life thing, but... Okay, given the nature and tone of the plot, this feels like something that has an end goal in mind that doesn't fit as much the slice of life narrative.
Mm-hmm.
There's the signal. Come on, Daniel.
Hey! Pro tip. Don't go in there.
Well, come on, Daniel. If you're going to do that joke, you might as well do it like Jim Carrey does. Do not go in there. Woo! Alright. Even though we have no reason to go to this place, and like I said, it's dangerous because we're on the fugitive, so we shouldn't go to a public place where people can spot us and report us to the authorities. Let's do that instead still. Like, seriously. If the characters are really this stupid, then it's really hard for me to feel bad for them. It really is.
I have a different question, because the problem with this starts earlier than what you're suggesting. Why haven't they told their grandparents that they're going out?
Remember, their grandparents are out at church.
Not to mention, Sheila, they specifically...
You could, like, go to the phone and call them?
No, but that's the thing, Sheila. Remember, the idea is that they're disobeying them because the grandparents specifically told them that you're not allowed to get out to leave the house. So the idea is that they're disobeying them. So obviously they wouldn't tell them. So, but that being said, yeah, that's the way it's not. Again, like, you're not supposed to leave the house. But of course you're going to do it because, again, we need the plot to go in this place. Because remember, you can choose to obey them and not call anyone, not log into Facebook to make sure nobody tracks you. But the problem is the game still needs you to get caught by the game still needs to have Sean and Daniel be seen by someone so that someone calls the cops. So the game forces you to go into this place, even though it's out of character for them to do so. I mean, I can understand Daniel wanting to go, but Sean should be saying, no, Daniel, we can't, but of course he doesn't.
I was about to say, Sean has been telling Daniel the whole time, don't use your powers, don't, like, make yourself visible. It's like, oh, let's go to the fair, yay!
In fact, we're about to talk about that again, because Daniel refuses to listen. So let's have another talk about not using your powers in public for the millionth time.
What the fuck are you doing? I can't believe it. How many times do we have to keep going over the rules?
Don't show the power. I know. But Chris thinks he can do all this cool stuff. I wish he could.
Not an excuse.
It reminds me of Noah.
Noah?
I just miss having friendship.
A friend of yours.
A friend of his. Don't worry, it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna say, stop lying to Chris.
I know, man.
I'm guessing stop lying to Chris is the morally right option? I'll be honest, this is one of the cases where neither feels like it's more morally correct than the other.
Well, I actually think of this one as the more moral one because Daniel is making Chris think that he has superpowers. And remember, this kid fantasizes that he's a superhero, so doing this can be a very big problem. In fact, Jova, this is going to come into the very different endings Chris can have that I'm going to talk about at the end of this part.
Let me guess. If he thinks he has powers, he tries to stop a car, and that's what kills him.
Don't forget what I said.
Oh my god.
Ladies and gentlemen, give Jova a big round of applause.
Wow. I mean, I know that's supposed to be tragic, but something about that sounds so absurd it almost makes me giggle, and that is messed up.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, just as long as they don't heavy rain it where they slow the car down, wouldn't have killed them in the first place.
No. To give the game credit, Sheila, the car accent feels legit. It doesn't feel super fucked up like in heavy rain. Anyway,
like skidding on the ice or something.
No. It's basically just a typical car accident. Again, he tries to stop the car with his superpowers, and he gets killed for it. So I told Daniel to stop lying to Chris and tell him that he doesn't really have superpowers.
Alright, so I'm guessing that stop lying to Chris is what the game considers the morally correct option. I should clarify, when I was wondering which one is the morally considered option, I was wondering which one the game considers more morally correct to give you a better or worse ending, depending.
Keep in mind, even if it wasn't for that, I would still argue that stop lying to Chris is the better choice, because don't lie to this poor kid, you're just being a dick. Go on.
Yeah, I can agree, though. Part of me wonders if stop lying to Chris would entail to say, actually, I'm the one with the power.
Oh boy, this bit. This is where one of the interesting things that I don't hear people talk about much about this game comes into play, but later. Alright, so this hipster character here, she's a character that's going to become important in the third episode, so which is why
that money.
Which is why they're introducing her here.
That money is literally stickers on that layering. Come on, guys.
To be fair, this game doesn't have a AAA budget, so I'm gonna cut it some slack.
it's one of those projects that doesn't give
The
subtitles
game-
for the singing.
The game, yeah, and I still, even True Colors does this. Why not just put in colors? Sorry. Hey, if you're going to put quote-unquote closed captions for the hearing impaired, how about this? Put the bloody lyrics of the song so that the hearing impaired can know what the lyrics are.
Yeah, it's not even just hearing impaired people either. There's several disabilities this applies to, and like, it is really bad because I think I mentioned this during one of the previous Life is Strange LPs, but like, lyrics themselves on their own can be copyrighted, which is why they're not included, which suggests that this is a
Licensed song?
yeah, that's the term, thank you. So why not make original songs? Or like, I get you probably can't afford the copyrights on that because copyright is kind of expensive and very fickle. It's like, why don't you just make your own song? I guess you have composers.
And that's the thing, Shuri. You know what's even funnier, Shuri? What if this actually is an original song? They just couldn't be bothered to add subtitles, because there are some times where the studio or the film or whatever does have the rights to a song, but they still inexplicably don't give subtitles for the music.
Well,
That would make it worse, in my opinion.
Well, that's quite presumptuous of you, isn't it, Cassidy? Yeah, her name's Cass.
Relax, dude.
So is the song pointing or symbolic of something?
It
that
doesn't
will happen
matter.
later in
It doesn't
the
matter. She's just singing it so she can get money.
I know, I was just wondering if the song will, of course, if it's foreshadowing.
No,
or
it's not.
something.
It's not.
That's kind
So,
of nice.
so is she like a drifter?
Really my
In the meantime, Dwebs, to recap what you missed, Jova called that if you don't tell Daniel to stop lying to Chris about, making him think he has superpowers, Daniel would later get killed by a car accident, and Jova predicted it. So, looks like Jova took away your role as predicting this game now.
I mean, I get the butterfly effect, but that's
Sure.
a bit drastic.
Well, I don't know what to tell you. Okay,
Well, the
so
mentality is that if Chris believes he has the powers, he'll try to stop a car from hitting him.
yep, basically.
Before Jova put out his little theory, I was just gonna say, well, if he keeps telling him that he has powers, he's just gonna get himself killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jova went a bit more specific and was right.
Nice to chat, Virgil.
So, okay, the only reason I'm confused as to what the game considers morally correct is, like, I would figure that stop lying to Chris would entail telling him, you don't have powers, I do, because otherwise, what is Daniel gonna tell Chris, aside from the fact that he doesn't have powers, to get Chris to believe?
I'm guessing he's gonna reveal to him that he's the one who has the powers. The game never really clarifies that, but I'm guessing that's what he does.
Gotta love the grandparents.
Well, that's what I assume too. It's just that, like, well, Daniel's been all, don't tell anyone you have powers, so, like,
No,
I
really.
mean, again,
You kinda hop from
don't get me wrong, I
place
can
to
see
place,
why
hunting
telling,
for
Daniel not to lie to
little
Chris anymore. That's definitely the morally correct thing to do.
That's okay.
But I feel like they could have at least had Sean include, just this once you can tell someone you have powers in that regard.
Well,
Because otherwise it makes it feel a little bit like Sean can't make up his mind.
anyway, to recap this character, basically, she's part of a community of hipsters who hop around from place to place, trying to get money the best way she can.
Drifter.
Yeah, basically.
Fall, but we've been lucky so far. That's
Is she going to be a recurring character?
Yes, she is a possible love interest for you to go with.
Oh!
exactly?
Wait, I thought,
Next stop is
what's her name was the
Humboldt County,
potential love
California.
interest?
Layla is another possibility, yes.
Not even close.
Oh, so there are multiple
actually don't
girls
work
that this
over
boy
there.
can fall in love with.
Specifically, 2 girls and a boy.
What are you doing? We picked the tree with Chris.
True, I guess Cassidy is the more fleshed out love interest.
Yes.
Who are you?
However, I'm not going to pursue her. I'm going to pursue her brother Finn instead.
Is it a wig?
Well, what do you think?
Oh, so you can have it be either the sister or brother as your secret lover.
You know, Not if you really want to be, super progressive, you could have it so that we can have a threesome with all 3 of them. That would be cool. I'd be down for
Hey,
that.
yeah, hey, I mean, polygamy, that's progressive.
Sure, fine by me.
And what?
As a big fan of the girlfriend manga, yeah, I'm very pro polygamy myself. So.
And I won't spoil with which series, but Nintendo themselves seem to have dipped their toes into
There he is. This is Finn, Cassidy's brother, and our male love interest for the game, and I will be pursuing him.
Also, he calls them pups.
The problem is, while it is better than Chloe, let's just say the LGBT ship of this game is also not without its problems. But we'll talk about it when it becomes more relevant.
He's not the only one.
Have you checked your hair? I think it just twitched. You should keep your distance, dude.
It feels...
Dude, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to be, like, we did this for a movie recently, so I'm gonna say it here too. Pretty sure you're not supposed to be having that hair.
Yeah, you
Wait, what's wrong with his hair?
Suburban boys.
You're too white for that.
Wait, that's a bit like, come on, so only Africans are allowed to have that hairdo? Come on. That's not...
It does fall under cultural appropriation.
I guess. I don't know.
Stay out of trouble, kids.
Oh, wow, it's...
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna
See you
default
around.
to the actual black guy talking.
I miss her too.
Hey, excuse me.
I already poured it
Oh,
up
hold on.
One
Listen here.
crappy sci-fi movie.
Listen here.
I don't know why.
I want to talk about this
We
guy.
don't do leashes.
Well, the city does. An unleashed dog is liable to a fine. So,
You're gonna fine our dog? Well, that's not very nice.
No, he
Loitering is
would
illegal,
find you.
and you don't live here, right? Right?
Calm down, sweetie. We're allowed to visit.
Okay, are
Christmas
these too
market.
high?
They're hipsters, Jova. That's the idea.
Eat you?
Or hippies, if you prefer.
You better watch your mouth. You punks are always causing trouble. This is a nice town, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
God damn it,
I
I'm
get
not.
it. They're
I
trying
hate
to
you.
make this guy come off. I get it. They're trying to make this guy come off as an asshole, essentially, to these two.
Cops on us, Finn.
But
We're leaving this shithole.
I don't
anyway.
know.
You
I feel
guys
like we
don't
don't
even
know
have a
enough about
Santa,
either
for
side to
Christ's
discern
sake.
whether or not they actually are good people, or if this guy is just blowing smoke.
Alright.
Why did they fight?
This
They
guy
were
is...
literally just playing music. Like,
See,
what the fuck?
I, as someone who's not a fan of hippie culture, this character feels like a flanderization of my position on the matter. But I'll talk about it more when we talk to him. Yeah, let's not get involved.
This guy.
And I've told you, no using the power unless it's absolutely necessary, like saving lives and shit.
They're pretty.
Let me guess, if you get involved, he messes with the guy Powers was.
No, he just makes it so some snowdrops on him anyway. Okay, let's listen to this.
Hey, what? Sorry, getting tired of these parasites, if you know what I mean.
Not really.
Just tired of lazy people, you know? Just waiting for useless governments to feed them. Hey,
Everything's political, Sean.
Oh.
you should check this out. It's not conspiracy.
It's not conspiracy stuff.
Promise.
Glad to
That's
see someone
exactly
else
what
who
a
care about
conspiracy
this.
theorist would
We
say.
care.
I don't know.
Oh, great. Let us crap on millennials while we're at it.
Nobody wants to work. Like those punks you were with. They're nothing but trouble. You better be careful.
What
Dude,
is
you're
up with this
weird.
guy's movements?
I don't know. They're not hurting anyone. They live differently. That's all. Plus, her music was really beautiful.
It's great to live off your talents, but come on. They're not achieving anything. Hey man, you got $1 is not fighting the power. This is why our country is broken.
I'm pretty sure hippies are not the reason your country is broken.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about them. You're just judging them.
No, I'm judging their actions. They don't deserve this.
God. The entire point of this character is to make me look bad for not liking hippie culture. Jesus
As
Christ.
usual.
I mean, it's fine not to like hippie culture. I mean,
I know, it's just that, this guy is basically a flanderization of my position. That's basically it.
Good luck with
I feel like he's more
everything.
I think he's more a take on the Republican viewpoint of, again, people should strive out on their own instead of coming to the government for help with their economical problems.
Basically,
It seems like they're not even doing that though. They're just busking and
yeah. Basically, if you agree with him and side with him, he will say, "Oh, nice to see a millennial who cares about our country and shit." Shiroi, like Brody said, everything is political, Shiroi. But
I'm not gonna get into that.
Also, I'm not entirely sure, but
hold on, Shiroi. Don't be a sheep. Leave the herd. There you go, Shiroi. Don't be a sheep.
Yeah, leave this herd and join mine.
Yeah, basically. Go on.
I was gonna say, I know Daniel is absolutely, but I'm still pretty sure Sean is too young to qualify as a millennial.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Sean's the older one, Shiroi.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I know Daniel is definitely too young. I'm pretty sure Sean is still...
Yeah, Sean is 16.
Hold on, let's see.
He might just be on the cusp of it.
Either 15 or 16, around that area, basically.
Unless they're going for the whole thing where all older generations call every young person they disagree with a millennial, I don't know.
Okay, let's see. Oh wait, how old is Daniel and what year
9.
did this game come out?
As of right now, Daniel is 9.
Sorry. Sean, I meant to say Sean.
Either 15 or 16, one of the two.
Let's see. And this game came out in
2018.
2018.
And it takes place in 2016, though.
All right.
Which means that Sean was born in 2000, in the year 2000.
Small towns always sell the same handcrafted crap.
In that case, he would be just on the cusp of potentially being a millennial.
There you go, Shira. He barely qualifies. Barely. Just barely. What was I going to say? Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. Allow me to clarify my position, because this game does a terrible job of it, of course. The reason I don't like hippie culture is because a lot of the stuff regarding hippie culture is, of course, disregard for complete rules, even the ones that do make sense and exist for a good reason, and the fact that a lot, especially back in the 1970s and 60s, where a lot of the quote-unquote fighting the power thing, at least in my opinion, resulted to basically just standing on front of some place and getting high and singing songs, which is something that, in my opinion, does not help at all. But that's basically what I say. That doesn't mean that if you're into hippie culture, cool for you, I guess. I'm just not a fan of it.
I'm sure it might be more nuanced than that, but again, I get people who aren't into it. Also, to clarify, actually no. Technically, to be a millennial, you have to have been born between 1981 and 1996. So, no, Sean would not be a millennial.
So I'm falling into that category by 3 years.
So what you're saying, Jov, is that the people who made this game don't know what the fuck they're talking about. What a fucking shock.
I guess maybe we could assume that the guy took a look at Daniel and assumed he's in the age range to be a millennial, which, to be fair, yeah, some people... Okay, while by technicality it's within that bit, some people do consider stuff like the 1999 or 2000 to be millennial because, you know, the idea behind the term millennial and whatnot. That being said, I'm not going to give this dev company the benefit of a doubt that is their big brain idea.
Hell, Jova's more closer to the millennial end bracket than...
Oh, no.
Oh, this is actually important.
I was born in 1995.
Yeah, that's why I said near the end bracket.
Alright, this is actually important, actually.
No kidding. He dumped me like a rock.
I'm glad you two came along. It's great that Chris found a new friend out here.
Sure would be a shame if that new friend had to leave.
What's her name?
Oh, yeah.
Cassidy.
Cassidy?
Cute name. Do you like her?
Just wanted money, because I'm going for the Finn ship. Because the decisions for Finn's ship actually start at the very moment you meet Cassidy. So you have to be a bit careful if you.
Is it an actually interesting relationship?
Not in my opinion, but I'll let Shiroi decide that.
My wife Emily.
Wait, decide what?
If the LGBT ship in this game is good or not.
All right.
It's tough on Chris.
Why do it with all 3 of the games?
Because remember, this is a very popular franchise in the LGBT community, and I'm trying to, we're trying to see if, if it's good in that regard.
Trying to be a good
So is the Cassidy one better handled?
Not particularly. I mean, it's mostly because these characters are just bland to me. But whatever. Let's actually focus on this for now.
Not the man I was. I shouldn't have even brought this up, just forget it.
No, go ahead. Because Chris talked to me about it, so go ahead.
Chris talked to me. He said that you sometimes lose it.
And this is how Sean helps, the dad.
So you should get help, dude.
You should get some help. Don't handle this alone.
Shit. Maybe you're right.
Okay,
Parents.
this is another one of those.
His grandparents. Hold on.
My wife's parents.
Oh.
They offered me their help, and they want Chris to go live with them. I haven't replied yet. Maybe I could.
Ouch.
So there you go. We can actually convince Chris's dad to accept the grandparents' offer so that Chris can go live with them for a while so that the dad can get some help and hopefully recover. And yes, if we go pursue this path, by the end of the game, yes, Chris's dad will indeed finally get his help, overcome his alcoholism, and Chris's story will have a happy ending.
Go through some shit.
I'm guessing if you don't, while Chris may live, he'll be stuck with an abusive dad.
We don't actually see what becomes of... I think, okay, if I remember correctly, even if you don't talk to the dad, Chris still makes it to the ending fine.
And that's what I mean, is like, well, I mean, since you chose stop lying to Chris, Chris will likely live, but I'm assuming if you don't get the right sequence with the dad, Chris will live, but his dad will still be
Sorry for bringing that
not
up.
on the best of streets.
I didn't experiment as much with this game as I did the first one because this one is way more boring.
Don't keep
Oh, and like you said, this game is not as replay friendly in the sense that, like, again, with the first Life is Strange, because of the time travel powers, you could like almost immediately do a rewind if you wanted to. But again, you know what? To give it credit, that was another good scene. The talk between Sean and the dad.
Yeah, the Captain Spirit part of the Life is Strange 2 project is by far the best part. Basically, they're having a race. The dad challenged Chris to a race, like Captain Spirit versus my truck and shit like that. It's fine. It's cute.
So, do we ever see the scene of, like, Daniel telling Chris the truth, or...
No, we did it off screen. Sorry, Dubs.
So basically, we're just to assume Daniel, I guess, told Chris that he doesn't have powers.
At least they won't yell at us. For
we just had we just had a moment where Sean asked him, "Did you tell him?" Yes, I did. Oh, never mind. It's now actually. There you go. Sorry, I got my chronology mixed up.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. He was disappointed.
Alright, so we actually have a good amount of dead time now, so I can actually answer Dubs' question from before. Let me address because that's actually one of the complaints, believe it or not, Dubs, that defense that you just threw out in defense of Daniel is actually a very common defense from fans of this game, so allow me to address that. Okay. Usually discussion about Daniel resorts to this. People like me say that Daniel is annoying and unlikable, and people defend with, but he's written realistically. He acts just like a real kid would in this situation. Taking aside the fact that I find that to be a dubious claim, the big problem is that it doesn't matter if it's written realistically, because, like I said before, and I will say it as many times as Don't Nod forces me to say it, realistic writing does not inherently make your writing good. I don't care if he's written realistically. He should be likable because, again, remember, one of the big things of this game is that we have to care for and protect Daniel the same way we have to care for and protect Ellie in The Last of Us. So this is one of those cases where the character should be likable, because if the audience rejects the character for unlikability, yeah, the plot as a result doesn't work. And second, there's also some people who even say that, oh, he's not supposed to be likable, and I'm like, what? If he's not supposed to be likable, then what's the point of the bloody game? The whole point of the bloody game is to protect him and help him and raise him and shit.
You know, I can't help but be reminded of certain bits where artists will suddenly go deep and dour and go essentially, I'm not sucking, I'm being real. Like, oh, you want a dressed up performance, but what I give you is reality.
Yeah, it's a similar thing to what I've said before. Like, and a lot of people say, oh, but he has trauma. So what? This is not reality. This is a work of fiction. He can both have trauma and not be an annoying shit stain. Like, it's one of those things where, oh, it's realistic. It's realistic. Okay, but realism does not necessarily make a good story.
Like, technically, by the confines of real life.
Oh, so sorry, Jova. I have to mention this. I'm going to complain about the settings. Yes, I'm going to... Believe it or not, Jova, they managed to get saving your settings wrong, too. Somewhere in between parts, the game decided it would be a good idea to turn off VSync. You might... Shira probably didn't... I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was suffering some screen tearing just earlier. So, wait. What the fuck? And then I looked at the options. Holy shit, the game turned off VSync for some reason. So there you go, Jova. These Don't can't even get saving settings right now, apparently.
That is... Back to what I was saying, though. Like, yeah, if we technically go by, well, this is in real life, well, you know what can happen in real life? A murder mystery that makes absolutely no sense by narrative standards. Guess what? That does not make it a good story.
Mm-hmm. There's also going to be another big example of how their overcommitment to realism becomes an even bigger problem later in episode 4. But I'm going to talk about that when we get to episode 4. Like for example, here I can actually mention an example without actually spoiling what happens after this. Picture this for a moment. Imagine we're playing the first Life is Strange, right? Okay, as we know, we found out that Rachel was killed by Jefferson, the villain, right? Okay, cool. Now, imagine if instead of that, and it makes sense because, you know, like this is the mysterious person that's been kidnapping women that's been built up throughout the game. So yeah, it's all connected. It felt like, okay, this makes sense. Obviously, we didn't feel sorry for Chloe crying over it because, you know, Chloe. Yeah, but the actual plot point of how she died makes sense. Okay, fine, and it works. Cool. Now, let's imagine for a moment if instead of that, they discover that, oh, turns out Rachel's disappearance is explained by, oh, turns out she just committed suicide. That's it. Now, that is realistic. Yes, sometimes people will commit suicide and nobody knows why because, you know, that person, whatever issues that person had, that person did a good job hiding them and blah, blah, blah. That's realistic. It happens. But story, in terms as a story, it's a very unsatisfying payoff to the mystery, you know, because it just feels like a random conclusion that doesn't come from a build-up, you know what I mean? Yes, it's realistic, but as a story payoff, it's kind of lame, you know? That's basically an example of how realistic writing does not necessarily equal a good story. Go on.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's empty.
So let me guess, before Christmas comes, they end up having to run and spend their Christmas out in the cold.
Oh, right, I'm sorry, I forgot to recap this quick. Okay, basically, Daniel wants at all costs to look into Karen's room, aka their mom's room, because Daniel wants to learn more about the mother, because when the mother left, he was too young to get to know her. Okay. Once again, no matter even if we pick no Daniel, the plot will still force us to go along with it because, you know, yeah, we need this so that we can force the plot. Because here's what happened. Remember, Claire and Steven told us specifically that we're not allowed in Karen's room. For what reason, we still don't know because we're going to learn in a few minutes.
It turns out her dead body is in there.
I wish that would have been a more interesting outcome.
Yeah, it turns out they're murderers and they're keeping their victims in the closet.
It turns out the reason the mother cut all ties was because her grandparents were cannibals, and she was actually doing it to save them.
Also, I love how right above their bed they have a stuffed fish. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you like stuffing your fishes that you fish when you're in the lake, cool, I guess, but why above the bed? Usually people put their stuffed animals that they hunt or fish like in a trophy room of sorts or something like that, right? Whatever. Moving on.
Just try it.
It's gonna be like in Saw. They open the door, but the gun is triggered by a mechanism upon the opening of it.
Basically, this is the room from when she was a teenager, so obviously there's a lot of old shit in here.
There's not that much left. Where do you think they put the rest of her stuff?
Inside the severed heads they keep.
Claire and Steven must have thrown a lot of it away. The rest is probably...
Remember, when Karen left her family, like as in Esteban and the kids, she also didn't left the parents. Like the parents don't know anything about her, where she's been all these years. So the parents themselves probably also have kind of a big thing about why would she do this to us? Why would she ghost us like this? Blah, blah, blah.
I wish I could answer that.
Okay.
All right, let's look into this fucking... Oh, a carving. Let's see. Exit door to somewhere else.
Looking for an exit.
Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. I think we talked over it, but Claire and Steven are devout Christians, and as we're going to learn later, they wanted Karen to also follow in that faith, which is why you see some stuff here where, and you're going to see later, where one of the things she had with her parents is that she didn't exactly want it, and blah, blah. So there were some disagreements when she was a teenager and shit like that. I hear the green chorus singing in the forest.
They don't seem the type to try and force it on her, though.
I don't know, Jova. The game, that's the thing, Jova. As we're going to see when we get to episode 4, this game's take on religion is, let's just say you're not gonna like it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm expecting that, but with these grandparents, they seem relatively fine and nice, and it's not like they've been saying, "Oh, you need Jesus," or "Yo, dirty sinners" to these two kids. So
no, Joe, but
again, based off of what the game has actually given me, I have nothing to assume that these people will try to force the religion.
Sure. Well, that's the thing, Joe. But what Karen says is going to say in episode 4. Yeah, we're going to meet Karen later in the game. Like,
yeah, we know.
It's like
that's the thing, though.
Well, whatever. We can talk about it when we actually hear her say her piece. So.
I mean, I'm just saying this. I don't know how much the game expects us to believe Karen, because as far as we know, Karen's not exactly a good person.
No.
Going off of how the game.
That's the thing, Jova.
Up to that, so.
That's the thing, Jova. Despite her being a shit person, the game still is going to try to paint her in a positive light. That's the thing.
Well, in that case, then, since the game can't be ours to really fully commit to that, I can just as easily say that Karen was a terrible person, and her grandparents didn't force anything on her. And if she says that they did, for all I know, maybe she could be lying. See what happens when you leave this much stuff up to the imagination, writers?
Lip service is a bad thing, writers. Shiroi, I'm gonna, much like with your, much like in that tiny senpai clip I showed you, I'm gonna put on my cat face and say, I think lip servicing is bad. Don't nod. Anyway.
Jova's right. Yes. We've spent pretty much this entire LP just like trying to fill in the blanks ourselves.
And it's like, look, if the game is actually going to try and get us to like
that what mystery's supposed to do?
No.
What?
No, Dwibs.
Actually, yes, but not this much.
Here's the okay. Hold on.
To this extent.
Like, if you win, go ahead.
I'm not sure if I understood Dwebs' phrasing specifically. Could you repeat the question exactly the same, Dwebs?
You mentioned something about filling in the blanks. I'm like, it's a mystery game. Isn't that what it's supposed to do?
Dwebs, allow me to quote one of your favorite YouTubers. Dwebs, allow me to quote one of your favorite YouTubers, Smeghead. Yes, it's okay for some stuff to be open to interpretation, but when you leave it so much to the point where I'm starting to feel like I deserve to be credited as a writer for this game, there's a problem.
Also, not for nothing, last I checked, mystery was not exactly one of the genres this is listed as. Like, this seems more like just a sort of choose your own adventure sort of thing. Like, sure, yeah, it is kind of a mystery what happened with the mother, but it's not in the sense where we need to piece stuff together ourselves. It's more like about hey, wait for the eventual explanation on this. At least that's how the game has kind of functioned so far.
It's like how...
How about this?
Okay, it's like, of course people are supposed to theorize some things about stories. If they weren't, book clubs wouldn't exist. And neither would the whole concept of theory videos. But, like, we have to guess every little thing, like every little reason for anything a character does, because the story doesn't even give us a hint to go off of.
Yeah.
And it's not even like, eventually we'll learn it. Some of the stuff
this is actually important.
never explains.
Basically, right before she left, Karen left her parents a P.O. box address, and this will be important for later.
Help my son.
To keep in touch.
Kind of, yeah.
And this is probably how the boys find her.
Yeah, basically, Daniel really wants to meet his mom, but Sean doesn't want to because he resents her for abandoning him, and I don't blame him.
And Daniel seems to be on the train of thought that she really cares about us, and
maybe she's changed her mind. Yeah, Daniel is hopeful that over the years she's changed her mind and that she maybe would want to know them and blah 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 blah.
Let me guess, Daniel turns out to be right, and this helps restore Sean's faith in humanity or some jazz like that.
You're on the right track, but let's hold on for now because plot.
What are you both doing in here? Except visibly ransacking our house while we're at church?
Yeah.
We're sorry, but we just wanted to.
No one ever told you that everything you say before a butt has no value? You know you shouldn't be in here.
Claire, please, calm down.
No, Stephen. They went way out of line here. We
Yeah,
specifically
you
told
went
you to stay
into
out
a
of this
room
room.
which has no value.
Well, they did tell him don't go in there.
There's nothing to see in here. It's time you learn to
I get the
respect
feeling
some
it
rules.
brings back painful memories.
Yeah,
to
it does.
Grandma, like,
Which that's the thing, Jova. I think Rybrad said it very well in his review. Like, okay, for some reason Claire exaggerates the hell out of this and treats Karen like she's a terrorist. And supposedly the idea is that, like you said, Jova, she also is traumatized about the whole thing. If only there were people right here in front of her who could empathize with her pain or something. Like, wouldn't it make more sense for both for like they have all the reason to share this pain together because they both feel it, so they can help each other through this.
Like, I know she's grieving, but like that was their mother. They have a right to see some of this stuff.
Listen, Sean, I know life has been tough on you the past
and
week.
suddenly she's now all calm again. I mean, yes, I'm glad that she calmed down, but it was like, all it takes is Sean yelling at her, and suddenly she's like, okay, let's calm down.
That shows you don't respect us. We could go to jail just for helping you. This is how you pay us back.
To be fair, I can get why she's upset that they deliberately disobeyed them, given how the grandparents are already taking a massive risk for these kids.
Stupid rules anymore.
Wait. I'm sorry. Why is Sean calling the rules stupid? Sean, just a few minutes ago, you yourself were saying that... Oh, boy.
Oh, shit.
Oh, just like I called.
Don't you just love, Jova, when a character's thoughts on something will change according to the whims of the writer?
How did that happen?
We already established in the previous part, Dibs, the thing had a bum leg. Don't worry, it's not important anyway, so... Okay, so now we get to choose whether we let Daniel save him or not, which we will. Because like I already explained, this is actually one of those cases where it is considered an emergency, so...
And and this will teach Daniel, again, to use his powers to help.
Hopefully, yeah.
Oh, Lord, what are you doing, Daniel?
Let me guess, she's going to think he's the devil, he's possessed by Satan, get out my house with my flamethrower.
Please, no.
No. The grandma doesn't do that, but later there's an entire religious community that's going to think that Daniel is the reincarnation of Jesus.
So ironic, like I said when Pedro first told us about that. I'm more surprised that it's actually something in the positive as opposed to them thinking he's the devil.
Considering this game's utter disdain for any kind of authority, be it religious, military, or policial, I'm surprised. Yeah, basically, one of the common things about this game is every, and I do mean every single authority entity, entity of authority, be it the police, a religious community, any kind of government, any kind of, is always painted in a negative light, and anything involving hippie culture, anything involving freestyle culture, or anything like that is always painted in a positive light. So, the writer's agenda is very showing.
Oh, right in time for the police to come. Do tell me, was I right when I said that, despite the grandparents getting them great presents, that they wouldn't be able to be there for Christmas?
Remember...
God, I hate being right.
See, the reason I called Lila is because, well, it's not like it matters, because even if I don't call Lila or log into Facebook, the game will still force me to go to the fair just so that someone can see us.
That makes the two of you accomplices.
Get your bags and go out the back door. I'll distract him.
Really?
Yes. No. Get the hell out of here.
So sorry.
What is a debt collector?
I wish we could have helped you more.
He's a cop.
Wow, isn't it convenient that all this dramatic stuff just happens to happen around the same time? Them discovering the stuff in their mother's room, the argument with the grandparents, having to save the grandpa, and now the police show up.
But they gotta leave him behind now.
Yep.
And again, they didn't even get to spend Christmas with them, even though they had gotten them such great things.
So yeah, in true Life is Strange 2 fashion, from this point on, the grandparents and Chris's family will no longer be relevant for the story. So...
Let me guess, the scene with Chris getting hit by a car happens at the end of this chapter if
Yes.
you picked the wrong choice.
Okay, so here's Go on.
Yeah.
No.
Isn't this game feels like practically a really weird adaptation of Supernatural. Two brothers running around the country because something happened to their parents involving fire-ish, and they're encountering weird things.
Alright.
References that Supernatural is also good. What were you going to say, Pedro?
So the basic gist of it, the ending of this episode can vary wildly depending on your choices. One, it can be that they're trying to escape, and Chris might not be here, and instead he sees them trying to escape, and he sees the truck, and Chris tries to stop that truck because he thinks he has superpowers, and he will get killed in the process. Since I didn't do that, Chris is instead just on his swing, and he finds us here. And now, guess what?
Hold on a second.
He gives Daniel his cape.
Here.
Whoa!
This is your cape.
What?
The cape suddenly became incredibly rigid.
Well,
I know, not the biggest budget, but...
and even then, Jova, like, clothing is one of the hardest things to pull off in video game graphics. That's why most video games, whenever a character changes clothes, the camera just cuts off to something else so that you can do it off screen. It's kind of like hair in animation, specifically free animation. So.
God, that puts into mind then how much effort went into the taking the clothes off sequence in Heavy Rain.
Well, actually, a lot of that was done either off screen or minimally.
Remember, Pedro, you have to remove some of the clothes using the PS3 move.
So there you go. The basic gist of it is that Chris told us about a secret path that he knows about that the cops wouldn't find them in. Basically.
That's nice. I mean, yeah, it's contrived how we had to move on, but at least this was a chapter with, for the most part, nice people who aren't the bane of humanity. So I guess that's something in this game.
And that was the Captain Spirit part of the story.
So let me guess, we're gonna skip over even Christmas in the story, aren't we?
Yes, every episode starts with a time skip.
Superhero. sad when he found out that...
He had to find out anyway. Before he did something
Exactly.
dangerous.
See, that's the game's way of telling you. See, if you didn't tell him the truth, shit could have gone down. So.
No matter what happened, I think you guys will always be friends.
You
And hey, on the
know,
play. Oh, go on.
you know, like, I can expect a lot of bad things to happen to these two, not just because a lot has happened so far, but just because, you know, they are fugitives. They probably can't be safe in a single place for very long, but it just happens at, like, the most convenient times, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, everything dramatic just happens within minutes of each other in, like, this one scene.
Well,
Starting with them breaking into the mom.
Remember, it's like...
You're about to learn something, but life's coming for you.
Remember, it's like at the end of the first part we did. Like, this game's way of doing this is to escalate the drama from 0 to 100. That's this game's way of doing things whenever it needs to kick the plot going.
No way, man.
Like, I feel like at the very least, you could have let them at least spend Christmas with the grandparents to give them some sense of joy. Like, or maybe the idea is, well, they do have some good things.
That's where we belong. No one will tell us what to do. We can be whoever we want.
Let me guess, the end game is them realizing they don't actually have to go back to Puerto Lobos.
Depends on your choices. You can indeed go to Puerto Lobos if you play your cards right.
But I'm guessing the good ending is them realizing that they do still have a home in the States.
No. If you're talking about the ending where we don't end up in Puerto Lobos, it boils down to them. It boils down to Daniel's morality, because in order to go through the border, you're gonna have to take down a lot of cops using Daniel's power. And depending on Daniel's morality, Daniel might refuse to do it.
Awesome.
Because as he says in that ending, it's not who we are. So if you want to get to Puerto Lobos, you have to tell Daniel that it's okay to use the powers in non-moral ways.
So again, like I said, it sounds like Puerto Lobos is the bad ending going off of the moral stuff.
Well, it depends on how you see it, I guess, because it is possible for both the brothers to have a happy ending of sorts in Puerto Lobos. So I mean, I don't think it's so much. Go on.
I'm talking about how the game and the devs like.
Oh, that.
Because you know, the fact that to get to Puerto Lobos you have to do a lot of what sounds like not necessarily good moral decisions.
That's a thing, Joe.
Well, okay.
If I had to pick an ending that don't not preferred for this game, I would definitely pick the Puerto Lobos ones, because, like I've said, this game has a constant thing where it portrays every single authoritative body in a negative light, because and every single hippie / freestyle person in a positive light. So this game clearly has a big problem with authority in general. So I'm willing to bet that escaping the police and getting to Mexico is probably the ending they prefer. But again, that's just me trying to theorize based on what I'm seeing, of course.
Kind of ironic, because that kind of seems to imply that means Daniel has to be okay with doing, again, stuff that is generally not considered the right thing to do, like potential killing, thievery, skullduggery, and all that. Like, and you know what? Maybe it's the misconception on our parts that's what the devs prefer. But that being said, can we talk about how this game really has its morals mixed up at times? And I guess that brings the chapter.
And that was episode 2. We're 2 episodes into this bloody game, and I still Sean is still a bland slate. Daniel is annoying, and I still don't really care for the side characters, because, again, every time an episode ends, we just abandon the side characters forever. So it really is hard to really care about anything in this game.
To give this episode credit, I do think this one was an improvement over the first episode,
Preview.
at the very least, in giving us better characters. It's not to say much about Daniel and Sean, but I digress.
This is it?
Yeah.
Oh, look at that, a pot farm.
And it stinks.
Yeah. And your stinky feet will cover the smell.
Shut up. They don't.
Oh, we're in,
greenhouse.
the happening, I see.
I'll show you around.
Alright everybody, tune in next time where Sean and Daniel are mysteriously now on a wheat farm working, to make weeds.
Is this Breaking Bad now?
That's the thing to it. Like I said, every time an episode starts, there's a time skip, and we get very little information on how they went from the ending of one episode to the beginning of the other. Like every time we start a new episode, we're in a completely different setting with circumstances and everything, and it's just so jarring. But anyway, tune in for that.
See ya.